from that midweek win, Steph. Have you been impressed with how your team's set up and have played today?
Yeah, I really have, to be honest. I feel as though what Chelsea needed to bring today, I feel as though Man City have stopped what they've tried to do, and I think especially down this right-hand side, the likes of Cuthbert and Coverland, they've been really dangerous, and I feel as though in terms of control, I think there's been a few moments where we've lost a bit of control, but overall, really, really happy.
What's in terms of Chelsea? We know obviously they suffered their first defeat of the season, Farah, but you spoke about at the top of the show them having to regroup, and they do have the squad depth, but actually do you think that's been a disruption for them today?
Yeah, and I mentioned it before. You said 6 changes coming into the game, and I said it can disrupt the rhythm of play, and I feel like with Chelsea, they've got a clear game plan out of possession. They want to play with that high intensity and press. Mm-hmm. The problem is when you change that amount of players, the connections aren't there. And you can see the frustration down here with Sonia Blamposto on the side, the manager, really frustrated that it's not happening. And then I think in possession, Alex, in terms of intensity with the ball, really poor from Chelsea. But I think City have really grown into the game. I didn't think they started the game too bright, but certainly grown into the game, and down this right-hand side for Manchester City, they've been phenomenal.
Well, for a player that started the game bright, because she's having such a huge influence on this first half, is Caroline, and it was no surprise that she was going to be that influence to help Manchester City get on the score sheet.
No, I think that start in midweek for Caroline was really important. She's a new signing to the club. She came in January from North Carolina, and I think these clips just show what she's about. I think you can see that she's full of confidence. She's really, really quick on that right-hand side. She likes to get her players, and this kind of typifies her, this goal. It's just that ability to get Man City up the pitch, but also she was clever enough to kind of make Millie Bright wait and try and not get her to get the ball. But I think here you can just see this has been a problem for Chelsea all game. I think her driving, but also players trying to keep up with her, and Millie does really well at this point here, but at some point you've got to go and put pressure on the ball, and she doesn't, and Caroline's quite composed and just slots it in that bottom corner, and that goal's been coming, hasn't it, Farah?
Yeah, and I mean Steph's a defender. There's nothing more defenders hate than players running at you with a bit of pace, a bit of trickery or body movement like we see here from Caroline. But as Steph mentioned, as a defender, Millie Bright does so well to delay and allow her teammates to recover and get behind the ball. But then at some point you have to engage the ball. In this scenario here, Millie Bright and Chelsea don't do that, and Caroline just sees the gap open up, and it's a beautiful finish and well executed through the legs and into the bottom corner.
And Nick Cushing saying right there, I told you to do that.
You said we did that in training on Friday, I'm sure.
Let's talk about Vivianne Miedema, Farah, because we were talking about her playing in that number 9 role, but actually the way things have played out, she is actually dropping deeper.
Yeah, and I do think when you have players like Caroline on one side and Jess Park on the opposite side, they have pace and they don't mind running beyond, which does allow at times for Vivianne Miedema to drop out of that number 9 into some pockets. But I think she spent too much time outside of the box. She's in a static position here in the box. That's not like Vivianne Miedema to already be in those positions. She normally arrives there as the ball does. But you can just see her hovering outside the box, wanting to get on the ball. But I think it's because a lot of build-ups come on the opposite side to where she likes to be involved. She plays it here, continues her run, nearly gets it back. But you'll see here, she comes really deep into play. But I think why this is, you can see her here, she looks more like a holding midfield as opposed to a 9. You can just see, and then there's bodies obviously that are getting advanced. And we heard actually Nick Cushing speak about that. Vivianne Miedema, he does want her in the 9 and he wants her to be higher up the pitch. But if she is to drop in these positions, you need willing runners beyond her, and she's had that in his first half, so has got away with it. But as we said, you'd prefer her a lot higher up in the pitch as opposed to dropping deeper, playing and then not maybe making the box. You'll see her here, when she's on the back line and she sniffs danger. These are the opportunities she's waiting for when she's in that back line. It's when she comes out of it, Steph, she's not as effective in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it helps the defence make a decision, though, the fact that she's not so attached to the back line. I think it's been dangerous for Lucy and Millie, who are playing in their position at this moment in time. But I think you're right. I think because Caroline's so quick, it's how do you catch up to maybe get that cross. And she has been a threat, but I think we want to see in the box even more.
Well, could Manchester City be in that dressing room right now, 2-0 up, Steph? Do you think that goal should have stood?
I'm trying to think, do I put my City hat on or do I put my punditry hat on?
You're BBC right now.
I mean, I'm so disappointed because at this moment in the game that the momentum was with Manchester City. Caroline again, driving at the back 4, cuts inside, Millie Bright foul, but at this moment, what a finish by Jess Park. And unfortunately, the referee blew us just before she's hit that strike. So from Manchester City perspective, it's disappointing, but ultimately it's the right decision.
I think it is the right decision because the whistle has been blown. I think the problem with this is that the referee has already made up a decision on the tackle before allowing a second of advantage. There was no advantage to the play before she made the decision to give the free kick. And look, they were close from the free kick. Hasegawa off the crossbar. I mean, they would have loved that to fly into the top corner and kind of redeem that goal that they should have had going into the half. But yeah, really well taken.
Is this half-time, Farah, giving Chelsea a moment to just regroup and focus?
They have to. They have to probably make a few changes. I think, as I mentioned, they don't have any connections out there. There's transitions, they get the ball in those transitions, they don't have runners, forward runners. There's no intensity with their play. So they need somebody that's going to get hold of the game in that midfield area and up their intensity.
So it's Manchester City 1, Chelsea 2. Farah Williams and Steph Horton alongside me for this one today. And that is what you call a game of two halves, Farah Williams.
Yeah, most definitely. I think I mentioned at half-time how City had dominated that first 45 minutes and that Chelsea needed to react at half-time. They needed to come out with more intensity. They needed to create more chances. And they did that. And you're right, Alex. It was a game of two halves. And Chelsea lost the first half, but were better in the second half and won the second half by getting those 2 goals. But there was certainly a big decision in the first half that turned the game on its head. And it could have gone completely different for Chelsea and, you know, Sonia Van Postel's team. But it didn't. It went their way. They didn't get the goal Manchester City that they should have had. And we'll talk about that. But it was a great reaction from Chelsea at half-time, and I think it proves why they're champions, Alex. They find a way.
Well, we were sitting behind Sonia Van Postel during that game, and in the first half, she certainly was not happy with her team, and surely had some words at half-time, Steph.
It seems like she did, because it was a different Chelsea that came out second half. And I think the difference between the two teams today was when their moments when the teams were on top, they took their chances, and Chelsea certainly did that. And I think for Manchester City in the second half, the game got too stretched for them. I think then you're bringing on the likes of Erin Cuthbert to come on and change the game, and that's the strength and depth that Chelsea have, that they're able to make 6 changes at the beginning of the game, but also bring the likes of Kiara Walsh, Erin Cuthbert into the game. I think that proved the difference, especially towards the last 15-20 minutes of the second half.
Well, we saw it in midweek when Vivianne Miedema came off the bench and made such a huge impact. We were questioning 6 changes to Chelsea coming into this, but clearly the game plan worked. Okay, we will wait for the moment till the game opens up, and then we'll put on those big names that you were talking about, and it worked in Chelsea's favour, Farah.
Well, trust in the process, I guess. I think we questioned at half-time, was those 6 changes for Chelsea a disruption to them? I felt as if it was. I felt as if they lost rhythm and connection in that first 45.
Third time they've played each other, and now they've got a huge game going into a Champions League clash. So it's almost now putting this one to bed and focusing on the next one already.
The turnaround's scary in terms of how quick it is the next game, and the focus changes. And ultimately for Chelsea, I bet that huddle was a bit different to what they had on Wednesday, and similar to Manchester City. And I think for me, for the players now, the focus is just to get your body right. You can see at times in the game that the tempo wasn't as great as what we probably expect in a WSL game between Manchester City and Chelsea at the Etihad, but it's the third time we've played each other, so it's difficult. But I think Chelsea obviously will be the happier of the two teams, but I think not for the want of trying for Manchester City. I think they just came up a little bit short today.
Okay, well, as you can see, Millie Bright with a huge smile across her face. Let's show you how the WSL table currently stands. Well, it's Chelsea extending their lead at the top to 8 points. And City are 4 points off third place Manchester United there, who are playing up against Aston Villa at the moment. Okay, Farah Williams, we need to take this game all in and how things changed, because how did the game open up in the second half?
I just think Chelsea came out a lot more aggressive. We mentioned there we was right behind the Chelsea bench in the first half, and you could see Sonia Van Postel, the Chelsea manager, really angry. They weren't getting their press out of possession, which led to their in possession being a bit slow. In the second half, they came out completely different. They had a better press, a better intensity about them, which allowed them to win the ball higher up and then create chances in the final third. So I just think whatever was said at half-time, or just maybe reminders that were needed to give the players, because the same group of players came out in the second half, but with a different reaction to the first.
I also think they retained the ball a lot better, Chelsea. I think in their moments when they're under pressure in the first half, it was kind of like booting up the pitch. There wasn't really some thought about how they play, and they brought on the likes of Erin Cuthbert. I think that really settled the game down. But I think in their moments of transition, when they win the ball back, they made simple passes that allowed City not to be able to press what Chelsea were trying to do in the first half. And ultimately, I think in them them intense moments, they made it count.
Okay, let's remind ourselves, though, of Manchester City in the first half, and especially the performance of Carolyn, who got things underway for Manchester City, Steph.
I mean, she was, without a doubt, probably Manchester City's best player, probably barring Kiara Keating, but I think what she does is she brings pace to the game, she's able to dribble, she's able to get her team up the pitch, and this goal typifies her performance today. She was getting at people, she was getting at Millie Brighton, she was making them make decisions, and that's a great composed finish. And I think this is what we didn't see in the second half, as Carolyn in this right-hand channel providing a bit of a danger towards Niamh Charles. And I think for me, her decision making is getting better with each game. She's new to the league, she came in January, City's new signing, but she showed a lot of promise and what she could potentially bring for years to come. She
was a bright spark in its opening 45 minutes and really put this Chelsea back line on the back foot. They were affected by it. I think, she had less impact in the second half and she had less of the ball, but I also think they identified that at half-time. Charles got a little bit tighter to her in the second half, didn't allow her to get the ball and face her running at her own goal. So I think that they made changes to nullify what Carolyn was doing in the first half.
Well, those changes definitely had an impact in the second half, because straight away Chelsea came out and looked like a completely different team.
Yeah, they did. As we keep mentioning, they were pressing a lot higher up the pitch. But as Steph said, they actually were controlling possession more. They were more patient with their passes. Their passes were of better quality. So you can just see here, they're just looking for forward passes, which really helped. And then there's just that little bit of quality in the final third. As you get on the half turn, Aggie Beaver does really well, because she's actually the person that initiates this forward pass and continues her run into the box. And you'll see here, as it comes back to her, it's a great touch to take the defender out of the game, and then the composure to finish and put it past the keeper. But look, Aggie here, Steph, she actually initiates the attack for Chelsea.
Yeah, definitely, and I feel as though this is the time when Manchester City are getting a bit stretched. There's space in between the units. The back line's not as high as it was in the first half, but Chelsea, full credit, they like to play forward, they like to hit runners, and I think Beaver Jones, her work rate's phenomenal. I was watching it all game until she came off, and I think for me, she really deserved that goal in that moment in time. But also for Gracie Pryor as a centre half, this is a learning curve for her. Just never ever turn your back, because you actually don't know what's going to happen. But a great finish, and that put Chelsea in the driving seat.
It really did, because then the momentum really continued for them. You could see that they had something, that fire, that desire inside them as a team, wanting to go on and get the win. And talking about the win, we are joined by Erin Cuthbert, who managed to secure all 3 points for your team. What did Sonia say at half-time that totally changed everything?
I think for us it was just about energy. We wanted to impose ourselves in the early parts of the game, and we never managed to do that. There was a couple of tactical tweaks that we had to make, because the game was becoming a bit stretched for us. I think Carolyn was getting down the wing too easy, and she's got lightning pace. So as soon as we tried to nullify that threat, it helped our game a lot more, and once we got a bit more control of the ball.
Okay, well, Erin, this is the moment where we show you your winning goal and you talk us through it, because what a moment. How did it feel?
Yeah, well, the gaffer didn't tell me to do that at half-time, but yeah, do you know what? I've been challenging myself to get in the box more, and I think it's one of those where it's body, head, shoulder, I'm going in the goal with it type of thing. It's just sheer determination, and I didn't care what body part it hit. I just knew that I wanted to be first on the ball, and when you're that close to goal, then any touch is probably going to guide it in.
How important was your movement? Because you're hanging out, this clip doesn't show it as well, but you're hanging out for a while waiting for that delivery. Is that so you get the run on the defender to score?
Yeah, I think Ashley's done really well. She's sat Casper Eye down a little bit and, got her space open for a shot, across, and I've got to hold my run a little bit. But I think as long as you're hanging behind the defender, then you've always got the half yard if you make a dart and run like that. So yeah, I've done that. Wouldn't really say that's my trademark type of goal, but nice to see that I've got some in the locker.
Erin, how has your role changed in the new manager in that middle of midfield?
You know what, it changes quite a lot from game to game, to be honest with you. I think sometimes we play with a single pivot, sometimes we play with a double pivot, depending on what happens. But I think she kind of sees me defensively, breaking down attacks, winning duels, but also getting myself in the box and contributing to goals like that. So I kind of see myself as a box to box, and I think she sees the same. I think working with Cammy individually has been second to none. She's a world-class midfielder in her time.
Player to learn off.
Honestly, when Cammy tells you to get yourself in the box and believe in yourself, then I'm sure going to believe in myself. So she, it's been brilliant having that sort of midfield specific work, and I think the addition of Kiara in January has added another dynamic to us, and you can see that we can play multiple midfields, and it doesn't matter who we put out, everybody's going to put on a show.
You mentioned that midfield. How difficult is it to adapt game by game? Obviously, different personnel in there with you.
It's quite tough. I think that's the only downside of it. Maybe the connections maybe lacking as much, and I think we're maybe lacking a wee bit of fluidity in the final third. But I think it's coming. We're working on it in training. We know where our downfall is at the moment, but we seem to always find a way, and I think that's about Chelsea. Like, we always sort of find a way. The resilience, everybody, as soon as Kiara came on, she said, come on, let's do this, we can do it. Everybody has the belief that it doesn't matter where we're playing, we're at the Etihad, now we're playing the Champions League, 2-goal deficit, we believe that we can do it.
I was going to say, you need to find a way on Thursday to get more than 2 goals.
Hey Sarah, come on.
It's going to be tough, but I'm excited.
What is it now? So you go, you recover, but the mentality to change things around now for Thursday?
Yeah, well, we know that we have to score goals. I think having that mentality from the beginning is going to be really important. We need to put them under pressure. I think, I don't know the manager's tactics yet, but I think an early goal totally changes the tie. So I think we need to go out there, but of course they've got top class players, and if you let one in at the other end, it's always the worry. So yeah, we're going to have to play a perfect game. I think there's no doubt about that. We're going to have to play a perfect game on Thursday if we want to get anything from this tie. But if there's anything that I know about Chelsea, it's one thing is we can do it.
Well, you're a Chelsea legend. I'm sure you've got all those fans that travelled all the way. They are happy now going home, and they'll be there on Thursday supporting you. Congratulations today, and the best of luck
Thank
for
you.
Thursday. Thank you,
Erin.
Erin. Okay, let's get you over to Jo Curry now, who is with the player of the match.
Well, Kiara, after such a good team performance and such a wonderful personal performance, it must feel quite cruel to walk away from that one with nothing.
Yeah, I think you always come into these games wanting to win and do your part for the team. I think we literally held on so long, and then of course it was just bound to happen with Chelsea. But yeah, I'm proud of the team and proud of our performance.
How damaging could that result be in this team's hunt for Champions League spots?
Yeah, I think obviously we know what the outcome is. We don't get any points from this game, but our mindset doesn't change. We're still aiming for Champions League, and yeah, we'll accomplish it.
What was said in the huddle at the end, it's so hard, isn't it, when it's such a late winner? I know you're smiling now, but I'm guessing there's a lot of hurt in there.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a tough one to take. Obviously, we have to focus on Champions League now and get into a semis, which is an important game. You just kind of have to park the bus there. We didn't get the 3 points, and yeah, on to the next.
Yeah, as you say, on to the next one. You've now got to park the result today and look ahead to that Champions League quarter-final second leg on Thursday. 2-0 up, travelling to the bridge. What's the belief like in this team that you can now go and get the job done?
Yeah, I think we're halfway there. Obviously, we know it's going to be a tough 90 minutes and it's going to take everyone. But yeah, we believe in ourselves and we know what we can do as a club.
Just finally, I know she's listening right now, but Steph Horton said she did a session with you on Friday, and I think that was her way of taking credit for all of your good saves today. Is that fair?
Yeah, Steph, you can take all the credit you want.
Well, she can have the credit, but you get the trophy. You are the Barclays Player of the Match. Well done.
Thank you.
Go on then, Steph, take it to the floor. What was going on?
Have you ever seen me be a keeper? Definitely not the credit for me. That's all Kiara.
But you spoke about it, though, in terms of, because the last time Kiara did play here was the Manchester derby, right? So it was more, yes, you getting involved, but from a psychological element.
I just knew that she'd probably be feeling a little bit nervous coming back to the stadium. And look, I think we expect so much of Kiara as a young keeper, and because of the standards that she set herself last season, I think as a young player coming into a professional environment, doing what she did last season, being the Golden Glove winner and performing, getting an England call up, there's a lot of pressure on them young shoulders, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to actually get around her today, because I think ultimately she's been out of the team. I think there's so much expectation, and just be like, go and play your normal game, because we know that she's a good keeper and young players are going to have dips in form. And today she showed why she's been one of the best keepers in the last couple of seasons, that's for sure.
Well, Farah, she made some huge saves, because it could have been a very different scoreline in the second half.
Yeah, it could. And here's the first one of the second half. It was, it comes across. She works her feet actually really well on this one. Works her feet really well and gets out and literally shuts down the shot. This one's from point blank. It just comes at her. The way she gets herself across, adjusts her feet really well to get a touch on this. You just see it here. She just readjusts her body. She was going one way and is able to balance herself out and go the opposite. But that one for me, Alex, was the best one. A nice firm palm right down at the left-hand side and stops Lauren James from getting that winning goals there.
I think for Manchester City, you're going to need your big players to stand up, and that's the goalkeeper, your two centre-halves, and the likes of Viv Miedema to be able to kind of control the game ahead of Thursday. And that's going to give Kiara a lot of confidence. I think in them moments when you need someone to stand up, she did today, unfortunately, on the wrong side of the defeat. But at the same time, I think going ahead of Thursday, she might be busy again because Chelsea need goals, but ultimately this will give her confidence.
Well, I suppose that's the thing, because she's had such a huge performance today. Is that a hard decision now going into Thursday?
Yeah, massively, but I think that's...
And yourself, because you're on the coaching staff.
I don't make any of them decisions. I'm not taking any credit for that. But I think for me, I think that's ideally what this squad needs, is that you need tough decisions. You look at Sonia at this moment in time and the decisions she has to pick for midfield, for example. It's crazy the quality that they have in there. And for Manchester City, we need 2 or 3 players fighting for each position. And Kiara's done herself really great in terms of her performance today, and Yamashita did really well on Wednesday as well. So it's a tough decision, but in a really good place.
Yeah. But Farah, could it have actually been different, Manchester City going away now from the Etihad? Well, actually, they could have been leading, couldn't they, in the first half?
Yeah, they could have, and probably should have. In my opinion, they should have. I think the referees called it too early. We saw Caroline was affecting the game massively in the first 45 minutes, really hurting this Chelsea backline, running at them. And you can see here, she does really well, carries the ball a really long way. You can see Millie Bright there, makes a tackle, and it's a foul. I think the referee didn't allow for 2 or 3 seconds of advantage for Manchester City. She blows her whistle straight away. You'll see here, she doesn't even allow for the advantage. She blows just as Jess Park's about to strike the ball and signals for a free kick. I think, Manchester City certainly will feel very hard done by in this situation. For me, the goal should have stood, but we did hear the whistle as she's Jess Park striking the ball. So poor decision from the referee on this occasion. City should have gone in 2-0 up at half-time.
OK, well, let's hear, that's your thoughts, Farah. Let's hear what the Manchester City manager, Nick Cushing, thinks. Well, he's with Joe Curry right now.
Nick, commiserations. You absolutely dominated that first half. Where did it get away from you in the second half?
Well, I think you can see, there's a bit of frustration throughout the game for me. First half, I think we should come into half-time at 2-0, and then I think with that first goal, there's a tight offside and then there's a bit of frustration throughout the game for me. First half, I think we should come into half-time at 2-0, and then I think with that first goal, there's a tight offside and then you look at the injuries that we have and the way that we've got to try and find solutions. Taking players out is going to be difficult. I think you've seen one team that was bringing their key players in and one team that was taking their key players out, and that's a sort of an issue that we're going to have to find solutions for.
On that goal that was disallowed, what did you make of it at the time, and have you managed to speak to the referee?
Yeah, I think my frustration comes from there was a foul on Laura Coombs in 2 or 3 minutes before that, and we had a counter-attack moment, and our threat in the game was coming from Caroline and Jess Park and attacking quickly in those moments. So I actually asked for the advantage to be played, and the fourth official said she would communicate it to the referee, and 2 minutes later we score a goal straight after a foul, and we didn't get the advantage. So I'm sure that they'll recognise that that's a moment that they probably should let play, and ultimately for us it's become a key part of the game.
Yeah, it could be very costly. In terms of where this leaves you in the table and trying to capture one of those Champions League spots, where does this leave you?
Well, there's still football to be played. There's a game going now that is going to affect the sort of gap that we have. But we believe that we can, win football games. We believe that we can put points on the board, and then, everyone else has to continue that. For us, I'm really proud of the performance today. I think, you can see we didn't play our fluid football in the second half, but we defended resolutely. I thought Kiara was excellent. And for me, that shows me that we have the spirit to continue to go on.
I was going to ask you about Kiara Keating. She was the shining light, really, of today's performance, wasn't she? Talk to me about the character she had to show coming back into the side after a timeout.
Yeah, I think, I've said before that we will rely on everybody. One, because of injuries, and two, because, form at times can dip. So we changed the goalkeeper today because of an injury to Yama, and Kiara showed that she's got more than enough to be the number one in this team.
Just finally then, let's talk about that big match on Thursday night. Talk to me about what needs to happen when you go there. How big is the job? Even though you're 2-0 up, there's still a long way to go, right? Yeah,
I think, there'll be large parts of the game at Stamford Bridge that looked like the second half there will be under pressure, and they'll have the crowd behind them, and, they'll be direct and trying to put us under pressure. But, we'll take confidence from knowing that in all 3 games previously, you can see that we've got a threat in the game and that we can score goals. And the aim for us is to score. If we score a goal, it changes the dynamic of the tie our way. So, we'll go with the confidence that we can play like we did in the first half.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Well, Manchester City do go to the bridge with the advantage, but Farah, they will have to stop Chelsea having the amount of chances that they managed to create in this game in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we heard Erin Cuthbert here say that Chelsea will have to be more front-footed and create chances, and that's exactly what they did in the second half. And Man City had to suffer with these chances, and we just spoke about Kiara Keating and how important she was to the Manchester City defence in terms of these saves, and that was a great save from point-blank range. Again, you'll see another one, Chelsea playing forward, following forward and getting opportunities. Again, this is a really good save from Kiara.
What a game, Farah, it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. Manchester City go with the lead. They know they have a 2-goal advantage, which is huge in this game. We've seen there hasn't been much goals that have decided the games. We look back to the cup final just, 6 days ago or 7 days ago. And then obviously the game midweek, and then today there's only been a goal in it. So they have a 2-goal lead. It's going to be difficult for both teams. I think City go there with confidence, I believe. And we saw how they played in the opening 45. If they can perform like that in the opening 45 away at Stamford Bridge, midweek, there's no reason why they can't get a goal within that. And then Chelsea have a mountain to climb.
Yeah. Is that what you're going to be saying to the team, Steph?
I think you've got to believe, and I think it is all about mentality now. I think all the work's been done on the training pitch over these 3 games. This is about who's mentally ready to kind of embrace that challenge. And for Manchester City, it's about embracing the fact that you're 2-0 ahead. You don't want to be coming and parking the bus. We play the way that we do, but for Chelsea, that mentality is to score as quick as possible. So I'm so excited to watch the game. It's going to be a great game, and with 2 great teams with really good technical players.
Yeah, and it's physical as well, Farah. This has been like tournament football. It's like, yes, you've got a League Cup, then it's back to a league, but it's actually recovering and going again. Yeah,
and I think if you look at the both squads, they're full of international footballers, so they're used to that type of turnaround in tournaments. I think the thing for Chelsea that they have is squad depth. At the minute, we know the amount of injuries that Manchester City have. So in terms of that physical turnaround for Manchester City, a lot more difficult than Chelsea. It's just that mental, I think, and there's going to be travelling. Manchester City have got to travel down before the game. So that could play in Chelsea's hands as well.
So it's going to be a light couple of days for Manchester City, more kind of like a walkthrough in training, Steph.
You would think so, and I think that's important now. I think presuming both teams will do the same. It's too intense not to.
Yeah, well, it sure is. Thank you for your company today. Always a pleasure. Well, Chelsea back to winning ways, but who will prevail in the Champions League quarter-final clash on Thursday? We can't wait to see. We will be back next week with WSL action as Manchester United will be taking on Everton. That game's at 11:45. Have a good Sunday evening, and we'll see you again soon.